You are listening to Crime Unraveled, a Buck Taylor novel by Chuck Morgan.
Chapter 2. Ramon Velasquez stood on his front porch overlooking his vast property. From the stone porch that was connected to his huge glass and steel mansion, he could see several hundred head of cattle moving through the valley both north and south of Dotsero. He loved this land, most of it having been in his family for several hundred years thanks to a Spanish land grant given to his 8 times great-grandfather. The family had been protective of the land since the late 1500s and protective of their privacy, so much so that little was ever written about them. Ramon and his sisters had turned their family into one of the largest landowners in the United States. They owned several 100,000 acres of land on both sides of the Colorado River and held the rights to almost 5 miles of river frontage. They were the largest producer of rare earth metals in the United States, with a small mine in Wyoming. Only one company in China supplied more of the metals than they did. They owned hotels, casinos, mines, and a media empire that spanned the globe, and yet very few people had ever heard of them. Ramon's father had been the driving force, for decades, for electing Republicans to state and national offices, and he held sway over many politicians who owed their careers to the family. When he died, many of them breathed a sigh of relief, until they realized that Ramon and his sister Gabriela were even more demanding than their father. It was rumored that the vast high mountain desert land they owned contained the graves of many people who had crossed them over the years. No one except for their immediate family knew the size and scope of their empire, and they liked it that way. Ramon stretched his stocky 5'10" frame and leaned against the porch rail. He was in top physical shape and looked 10 years younger than his 47 years. He sipped from the large mug of coffee and pulled his shearling coat tighter against his chest to ward off the morning chill, his tan Stetson snug against his head. He turned as his sister, Gabriela, 2 years his junior, walked onto the porch, holding another large mug of coffee. She was a striking woman with radiant red hair, and she filled out her jeans and flannel shirt in a way that drew attention wherever she went. She pulled her sunglasses from their position on the top of her head and put them on, protecting her eyes from the morning glare. She stood next to her brother and held up her phone, hitting play. The quality of the video, even though it was taken in the pitch blackness of the early morning, was worth every penny he had paid for the ultra-high-tech drone. He watched as the blast destroyed the highway and smiled as the walls of the canyon collapsed on both sides. He replayed the video several times. "It worked better than the engineers said it would," said Gabriela with a smile. "We should give them a bonus." Ramon laughed. "The only bonus they will get is that we may allow them to live. What's the news and the internet saying about the landslide?" "The slide was much bigger than we ever anticipated. Going to be difficult to plead our case." "That's where you are wrong, Ramon. The opportunities for us just increased a dozen-fold. So far, the news channels are reporting it as a possible massive earthquake. They say that the Colorado River has been closed off, and a new reservoir is forming behind the massive rockfall," said Gabriela. "We got everything we wanted, and more. The dammed river and reservoir will give us all the water we need to expand mining operations. It will take them years to clear the slide and reopen the river. And that reservoir is on our land. We know the canyon is rich in rare earth metals, so we will call the governor and offer our services to crush all the rocks and boulders they remove from the rockslide, and we offer to do it at no cost to the state. This will save the state a fortune in haulage costs, because we will offer our fleet of dump trucks to haul the debris. We will do it for the good of Colorado, and we will keep all the minerals we find without having to mine anything right away. It's a win-win for us." "You are diabolical, little sister," said Ramon. "Let's make sure our media outlets keep pushing that story. I don't want any mention of our failed negotiations with the Army Corps of Engineers to dam the Colorado and create a huge reservoir on our property. Let's keep that out of the news." Gabriela shoved her phone into her back pocket as Tina, their younger sister, stepped onto the porch. "What's got you guys all smiles this morning?" she asked. Tina, 37, was petite and pretty, with a round face that reminded everyone who saw her of her late mother. She wore jeans and a black t-shirt under her short leather jacket, and her black ponytail hung almost to her waist. When she visited the family home, she spent most of her days tending her collection of animals and had little involvement in the business, which was the way Ramon and Gabriella liked it. The rest of the time, she lived in Denver with her husband Peter and their 2 teenage sons. "We were just talking about how fortunate we are that you are our little sister," said Ramon, and he gave her a one-armed hug so as not to spill his coffee. Tina giggled. "Why don't you guys head in for breakfast, and I will join you in a few minutes. I need to make a call." Gabriella and Tina headed into the house, and Ramon stepped to the far end of the porch. He pulled out his phone and dialed a number from memory. "Sir?" said the male voice on the other end of the line. "Great job on the video from the drone. Looks like everything worked better than we ever expected," said Ramon. "Thanks," said the voice. "Just like we talked about," said Ramon. "Both engineers and the 2 drivers. You don't have to worry about the 2 drivers. They're under 1,000,000 tons of rock. I'll take care of the engineers. What about their families? Stop and see Gabriella later today or tomorrow, and she'll give you cash for the families, enough to keep them quiet about their missing loved ones. Let me know if anyone complains, and we'll deal with them one-on-one," said Ramon. The voice on the other end of the line clicked off. Ramon finished his coffee, smiled, and headed in for breakfast. It was a great day, and the day had just begun. He looked at the directory on his phone, found the number he was looking for, and hit the green button. "Governor Kennedy, please. Ramon Velasquez calling."
Thank you for listening to this chapter of Crime Unraveled, a Buck Taylor novel by Chuck Morgan. You can find the entire crime series as well as other novels by Chuck Morgan at chuckmorganbooks.com or on Amazon.